For 5 years, a decorated Navy prosecutor and his wife lived in constant fear. They moved over 50 times. They severed ties with family. They believed assassins were hunting them. Why? Because an FBI agent told them so. Except that FBI agent never existed. And when investigators finally pieced together the truth, they discovered something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. This is the story of how a brilliant man convinced everyone, including his victim, to believe an impossible lie, and how that lie ended with body parts scattered across a Georgia swamp. December 2nd, 2022, Portal Hunting Club, Georgia. 2 hunters are tracking a deer through 13,000 acres of dense woodland when their dogs suddenly veer off course. The hunters follow, expecting to find their kill. Instead, they find a human torso. It belonged to a white female, approximately 40 years old, and this was just the beginning. Over the next 5 days, more body parts would be discovered scattered across a 3-mile radius, a right leg here, a left leg there, and finally, on December 7th, searchers found disturbed ground near a tree. They started digging. They pulled out a head. It was the only part that had been buried. But here's what made this case absolutely haunting. Investigators had no idea who she was. No fingerprints matched, no DNA in the system. For nearly 6 months, this woman had no name. When they finally identified her, the story that emerged was so bizarre, so elaborate, and so unbelievable that even seasoned detectives struggled to piece it together. Her name was Nicholas Casotus, and the man who killed her? He was a decorated Navy JAG officer, a Pentagon employee, a prosecutor who had served 2 tours in Iraq, and he convinced everyone, including Mindy herself, to believe a lie so outrageous that it cost her everything. The crime scene told a disturbing story. Scattered throughout the woods were 2 large plastic totes, one black, one gray. Both had been meticulously wiped down with Clorox wipes. Over a dozen disinfectant wipes were found in the area. There was a red-handled Milwaukee utility knife, also wiped clean. No DNA, no fingerprints, nothing. But here's what they did find: human blood in both totes. The killer had used these containers to transport Mindy's dismembered body into the woods. The medical examiner determined Mindy had suffered at least 9 traumatic blows to the skull. Defensive wounds on her arms showed she fought back, and there were abdominal wounds. We'll come back to those later because they're crucial to understanding the motive. The forensic entomologist dated her death to around November 27, 2022. The body parts had only been there about 5 days when they were discovered. Now, in this massive 13,000-acre woodland, there are almost no buildings, almost no cameras, but investigators caught a break. A water pump station near where the torso was found had an external security camera, and on November 29th, just 2 days after Mindy's estimated time of death, that camera captured something important. A 2022 Ford Explorer, driving past at noon, then returning a short time later, going the opposite direction. That vehicle? It belonged to Nick Casotus, Mindy's husband. But when detectives sat down with Nick to ask him about this, he didn't deny being there that day. In fact, he had a very elaborate explanation for everything, and I mean everything. Picture this: your detective, a decorated Navy JAG officer, someone who prosecuted cases at the Pentagon, sits across from you. His wife's dismembered body was just found in the woods. His car was spotted at the scene. And you ask him, "What were you doing there?" His answer? It's a doozy. Nick Casotus told investigators that for the past 5 years, Mindy and he had been living on the run. They had moved over 50 times in 3 years. They never stayed in one place long. They cut off contact with family. They lived in constant fear. Why? Because they were being hunted. According to Nick, it all started in 2017. Vandalism, threats, mysterious bank withdrawals. Then one day, a man showed up at their door claiming to be an FBI agent. His name was Jim McIntyre. Agent McIntyre told them their lives were in danger. He said he would protect them, but they had to follow his instructions without question. Move when he said move, trust no one, stay hidden. And for 5 years, that's exactly what they did. Nick told investigators that on November 29th, the day his car was spotted near the crime scene, he was simply following orders from Jim McIntyre's security team. He was told to pack their belongings into plastic totes and deliver them to a GPS location. A red-headed man would meet him there and transport their stuff to their next rental. So he drove to the coordinates, he met the man, he dropped off the totes. Then he left. Simple, right? Except detectives weren't buying it. Not one bit, because GPS data from Nick's Ford Explorer showed he was in that woodland for 2 hours, not 5 minutes, 2 hours. And get this, before driving to the woods, Nick made 2 stops. First, he got gas, then he went to Home Depot, where he purchased a red-handled Milwaukee utility knife, the same type of knife found at the crime scene. Earlier that month, another Home Depot run. This time, he bought a shovel. Oh, and there's more. Forensic teams descended on the Airbnb where Nick and Mindy had been staying. They used luminol on the floors. The chemical lit up like a Christmas tree. There was blood everywhere. On the floor, tiny splatter on the walls, and the futon? Soaked. The blood on that futon was Mindy's, and based on the stain pattern, she had been sitting upright when the fatal blows were delivered to her head. But Nick? He had an explanation for that, too. Several, actually. Here's where Nick's story gets truly unbelievable. When Mindy's parents were told about the identification of her daughter's remains, they were shocked. Not because she was dead, they already knew that. They were shocked because she had been murdered. You see, Nick told them Mindy died in early December from a stroke. She was in the hospital being monitored for blood pressure issues when it happened suddenly. Tragically, she was 8 months pregnant. She was supposed to give birth in January. Except, none of that was true. Nick told investigators he received a call from a facility in Savannah saying Mindy had passed. When he arrived to collect her, someone, he couldn't remember who, told him she had died unexpectedly. Maybe her heart, they said. Then things got even stranger. Nick claimed the facility contacted him again to say they had accidentally cremated Mindy. The fee? $5,000 cash. So Nick withdrew the money and met a man, another mystery man he couldn't identify, in Montgomery, Alabama. The man handed him what Nick believed were Mindy's ashes. He never got a death certificate, never got the name of the facility, never got the name of a single doctor or staff member. And detectives had one very obvious question. If Mindy was cremated, whose body parts did we just find? In the woods. But wait, there's more. After Mindy's supposed death, Nick told her parents he would arrange a memorial service. That service never happened. Instead, Nick moved Mindy's parents to a new home in Hilton Head, then disappeared from their lives completely. Why didn't they look for him? Because Nick's security team at a company called Apis Limited sent them an email. It said Nick had been in a terrible car accident. Weeks later, another email came. Nick had died from his injuries. So Mindy's parents spent months grieving both their daughter and their son-in-law, never knowing Nick was alive and well, already remarried to a new woman in Pennsylvania. So why would a decorated Navy officer, a man who prosecuted war crimes in Iraq, murder his wife in such a brutal way? The answer lies in 2 things: money and children. Let me take you back to 2015. Nick's first marriage was falling apart. He and Heather couldn't have kids. When they divorced, Nick was ordered to pay Heather $1.5 million. Now here's the insane part. Nick told the judge he could afford this payment because he was worth $32 million. $32 million. He claimed he earned this fortune working on top-secret software projects for a company called Apis Limited under the direction of, you guessed it, Jim McIntyre. For security reasons, he said, he never received a salary. Instead, he got stock options placed in a trust managed by Jim McIntyre. Despite supposedly being worth $32 million, Nick never paid Heather a single cent. Instead, he went on the run, moving constantly, avoiding formal employment, cutting ties with family, all to dodge that court order. And here's where Mindy comes in. Investigators believe Nick desperately wanted children after his failed first marriage. When he married Mindy, that dream seemed possible. She told everyone, friends, family, even Nick, that she was 8 months pregnant. But when the medical examiner performed Mindy's autopsy, they discovered the truth. She was not pregnant, not 8 months. Not even a little bit. And remember those abdominal wounds I mentioned earlier? The prosecutor believed those wounds weren't random. They were deliberate. They were rage. Think about it. Nick found out Mindy had been lying about being pregnant. After everything he'd done, the fake FBI story, the constant moving, the elaborate lies, she couldn't give him the one thing he wanted most. The prosecutor's theory? Nick killed Mindy in a fit of rage when he discovered she wasn't pregnant. The 9 blows to her head, the abdominal wounds, the way he buried only her head, almost like he couldn't bear to look at her face. And that Milwaukee knife he bought at Home Depot? Prosecutors believe it was just one tool in an arsenal. He also purchased a 7-piece deer processing kit from Bass Pro Shop, the exact type of tools experts said could have been used to dismember Mindy's body. Nick's explanation? Mindy texted him asking him to buy it as a Christmas gift for her hunter brother. In August 2025, Nicholas Casotus stood trial for the murder of Mindy Casotus. His defense? The Jim McIntyre story. For 5 years, he and Mindy lived that lie. They moved constantly, they stayed hidden, they genuinely believed their lives were in danger. The defense argued that both Nick and Mindy's behavior proved this wasn't something Nick made up after the fact, they actually lived it. The prosecution fired back, he's a fiction writer. He makes up stories. He sold a story to Sony for over $300,000, and everyone believed him because of who he was. A decorated JAG officer, a Pentagon employee, a war veteran. But here's what sealed Nick's fate. He couldn't produce a single piece of documentation to support his story. No death certificate for Mindy, no records from Apis Limited, no proof Jim McIntyre ever existed, no subpoena for company records, nothing. For a man who worked as a military prosecutor, who understood legal documentation better than anyone, this was damning. The jury deliberated for just over 1 hour. Guilty. Malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault. Nicholas Casotus was sentenced to life without parole plus 25 years. At sentencing, Mindy's best friend spoke about the woman found in those woods. She said Mindy was bright, vibrant, generous, and caring. She loved and trusted Nick, and he was the very person she needed protection from. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into cases that will keep you up at night, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.